the people who ask the most questions are often the ones who grow the fastest. The future of AI is not just about machines replacing humans.
So, based on your experience, how would you approach the placement preparation?
Beyond just coding, you are often given ambiguous problems.
What core technical skills do you believe that the audience or the viewers should implement and learn at this point of time? As you put an emphasis on participating in hackathons and open source contributions, so how did that shape your tech journey and how did it help in getting you placed at Mastercard?
Hello, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the IEEE Pune section podcast Beyond Conversations. I'm your host Adish, and today we have a truly insightful session lined up for you. Joining us is Miss Nidhi Yadav, a dynamic professional from MasterCard who brings with her a wealth of experience in the world of fintech, innovation, and digital transformation. In this episode, we'll be diving deep into her journey, her experiences at MasterCard, her thoughts on leadership, diversity in tech, and how young minds can prepare for the future of digital finance. So sit back, grab your headphones, and let's get started. Yeah, so hello Nidhi. Could you please take us through your journey from your academic experiences at PICT as the PISB chairperson to now being an SD1 at MasterCard? So, what were your defining moments and experiences in the entire journey?
All right. Firstly, hi Adish. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be here at IEEE Pune Sections podcast. So, my journey from being a student at PICT and then now working at Mastercard has been really transformative. I would say it was filled with a lot of learnings, a lot of ups and downs, and yeah. So, starting with my academic journey, I started pursuing my computer engineering at PICT. And it was the time of first year when me and my friends were a little hesitant to actually cope up with the other colleagues and everyone around us, because obviously the first year was uh, within the pandemic for us. We joined in late in the first year, I would say second year. And then we went on together to join PICT IEEE student branch. There we actually started exploring things like doing publicity for small events, like the ones which had scope within the college, and then we started slowly exploring other things as well. Then in my third year, I would say it was a crucial time when when companies come at your college and then you have all of those set of students of your batch sitting for the internship season. And then you have to be one among those to actually crack the coding test first and then crack the interview. So, yes, I actually started my prep in the late first year, I would say, and continued along for kind of 1.5 year, and then I got selected as an SD intern at Mastercard, and then I got a PPO from there, and yes, now I'm working here as a full-time engineer. I mean SD at Mastercard.
Yeah, that's great to hear, Nidhi. So, could you please enlighten, like, you have interned at MasterCard and then transitioned that into a full time role? So, what key takeaways did you like experience and what would you recommend to the viewers?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So, my internship at MasterCard was truly a stepping stone, I would say, for helping me transition smoothly from uh, my college to, a corporate world, I would say. So, on the technical front, I was given a project in ML and AI. Where I had to build certain models which were to be implemented and getting the business insights out of that. So earlier, I did not work on ML and AI, so it was completely new for me. But then, yes, the company's culture made it very comfortable. I did not feel that any silly doubt, whichever I'm asking, is considered silly over there. But yes, you should be asking questions. You should be clear with whatever doubts you have in your mind. Never hesitate as such, I would say. And but I think more than the technical learning, I would say what emphasized me was, I would say, the major emphasis was given in the company's culture. As I said, right from managers to developers, none of the doubt is considered a silly one. Everyone is open to any questions which you have, any open discussions which you need, or anything, I would say. So I would say it is a sense of decency, then innovation, and a lot of opportunities are obviously around when you're interning. You get to interact with a lot of people around, right from your VPs, I would say leadership people as well, and then the people who are interning along with you, with them as well. So, yes, one contrast which I would say is between college and corporate life is that you have to, I mean, when we are in the college, we just manage studying the night before an exam, and then we still score like a 9 plus CGPA, I would say. I think everyone scores that. But then in the corporate world, it's not like that. You can't wait until the last moment to deliver a feature or a fix or any issue in the production, I would say. So your work actually impacts. I mean, your colleagues are dependent on you. So you have to be really consistent. You cannot do what you have been doing in your college. You cannot just show up on the last day of your sprint and that, yes, uh, I mean, this is the work what I've done. So it's not like that. It's a continuous learning. It's a continuous based work, I would say. Um, yeah, and then my internship definitely boosted my confidence because my managers were so supportive. They always heard out to whatever thoughts I had in my mind, whatever queries, whatever new ideas which I could implement in my internship problem statement. So yeah, that was a sense of I would say confidence which they inculcated into me. So yes, it had been a good experience. Yeah.
So, Nidhi, as you put a great emphasis on placements, so as placements are crucial time for engineering students. So, based on your experience, how would you approach the placement preparation if you were to do it again? From technical
Okay.
point as a, like soft skills, what soft skills do students need to develop, and what strategies or resources did you use at the time of your preparation?
Okay. So, placements are honestly one of the most stressful things. I can understand that. And there's a lot of, I mean, this is a major question which I get from a lot of students as well. So, I clearly remember when it was getting closer to my internship season or even my placement season, we were very, I mean, very anxious about what is going to happen, how are we going to face those interviews and everything. So I would just say begin simple. If you're in your first year, second year, third year, whatever it is, if I am supposing you guys are majorly from second year and third year, okay? So if you're in your second year, focus every single day. You should be focusing on at least a DSA question because if you look at any product based company or any service based company, they will always look out for your problem solving. They won't actually get you inside just from your DSA, from your projects or something which you have built open source. So I mean, certain startups would actually accept that, but then if you want to get into some product based or service based companies, they will definitely judge you with your problem solving. So one way to showcase these skills is by mastering DSA, data structures and algorithms. So what I did personally was that I used to practice at least, I mean, at the worst, if I'm very busy throughout the day, even during my internship as well, I used to practice a single question, I mean, minimum a single question every day. And whether it be from arrays, trees, anything. And I would say pick up the topic which is a little scary for you. Uh, I mean, if you have revised everything and then, I mean, if you have done everything and then if you're revising it, so pick up the one which is a little scary for you, right? I would say trees and graph is what people find it to be difficult. In fact, me myself found it to be difficult. Yeah. So I knew DSA is going to help me out ultimately, whether it be any company which is coming on campus or it's off campus. So we actually prepared together. And then, yes, you should make a peer group in your college so that, you know, if you see someone else working outside with you who is consistently working every day, then you also get motivated, and then you get a little scared. Oh, this guy is working alongside, and then look at me, I'm not even doing some part of it. So yeah, you should get a little motivation, and then keep such peers around you so that you feel motivated seeing them. So I had maintained a such friend circle, which actually helped me to maintain this consistency. We used to do it together every day, every single day. We used to do that. And then talking about soft skills, I would say in today's corporate world, more than your technical skills, your soft skills are equally important, or I would say in some part it is more important, because if you do not know how to express your thoughts, if you do not know how to express what is going on in your mind, or what queries do you have, no one is ultimately going to understand your thoughts automatically, right? So you have to be very clear. You have to be very gentle, polite, and yeah, soft skills. I would say this will improve if you are included in some extracurricular activities in your college. If not, if there are no extracurriculars happening in your college which could help you out, so one thing which can help you is you can actually get on to certain mock interviews with your friends, right? Because there you can open up. At the very start, it is going to be awkward. I mean, I have experienced that, but then yes, ultimately, when you open up with your friends, and then it creates a professional talk between you and your friend when you're giving a mock interview. And then just make sure that no one is going to judge anyone, because this one who is taking your interview is also going to learn from you. And then, yes, of course, you also build your communication skills along the way. So these would be the takeaways, I would say. And one thing which I would like to add on is, this is the idea which I always have believed throughout my engineering, and yet now as well, is that you don't actually win by sprinting at the end. You actually win by showing up every day. So you have to be very consistent. And I would say, don't just keep project like to-do list or something of that kind, very basic projects on your resume, but try to find some problem statement which is around you, to which you can actually contribute and get some brilliant idea out of that. And you can just code that. And then, I mean, saying it is not a, I mean, saying it is very easy, but then, yes, you can innovate your ideas and put up as a big solution. So that will create a very major impact on your resume as well.
Yeah.
So,
So, apart from the technical skills, the soft skills, and all the various prerequisites, does CGPA actually matter in the placement process, according to you?
yeah, so I would say CGPA does matter in the placement or internship season. For at least my college, we had the major shortlisting being done on the basis of CGPA. So yes,
Okay.
maintaining your curriculars is equally important while you prepare for your internship and your placement season. You cannot just neglect all of those things.
Okay. Okay. So, the viewers will need to take a note of that as well then. And as you put an emphasis on participating in hackathons and open source contributions, so how did that shape your tech journey and how did it help in getting you placed at Mastercard?
Okay, so honestly, I've not been a part of I mean, much of the hackathons, but then yes, I was a part of Smart India hackathon. So,
Okay.
when you are a part of hackathon, I would say there are multiple things which you're going to learn. It is kind of a similar environment what you have in the corporate world, because you create a team which is going to ultimately solve a problem statement. Secondly, when you interact with your peers, there are a lot of conflicts, there are a lot of change in mindsets of people. So you have to understand every one of them with whom you're working around. And then ultimately you have to get on to a conclusion that, okay, this is what is the best for our problem statement. And then we are going along with coding it out. So
Yeah.
firstly, you actually create a presentation kind of thing. So you get a sense of presenting things. How do we present things? How do we speak up when any question is asked, any cross question is asked, or anything, or any sort of this kind. And then I would say then comes the next part, which is actually when you get selected out of your idea or what innovation you're trying to build out of from the problem statement. Then comes the coding part. So there also you have to show up your teamwork. You have to be very polite with your teammates. I would say you have to actually adjust between that environment and then decide, oh yeah, now you are also being comfortable, and then the other teammates are also comfortable. So this is what actually happens in the corporate world as well. You have to be really cautious about you do not hurt anyone. And technically speaking, it is definitely going to be a great opportunity, because it's a lot of pressure around. If we talk about hackathon, you have a deadline, you have a 48-hour hackathon, or do you have if you have a 24-hour hackathon, you cannot even sleep during that time, and then you have to rigorously work around whatever you have thought. So
Yeah.
uh, learning under this pressure is also a big skill which you get to experience if you participate in hackathon and all of such things. So yeah, I would say it would be great if you guys take it as a I mean, as an it would be an add-on for your resume or your profile. So there are multiple hackathons, multiple open source programs like GSOC and all. So yes, you guys can find multiple videos online out there, and then they are going to guide you very perfectly, I would say.
Yeah, so Niti, given your expertise in software development and data analytics, what core technical skills do you believe are essential for budding new engineers to enter the software industry as of now?
Okay, great question. So, to anyone who's looking to enter into the software or fintech industry today, I'd say focus on building a strong foundation first. Because no matter how fancy the tools get, your core technical skills will always be your biggest strength. So, start by being really good at one or two major programming languages which you feel are interesting you, but it's not just about the syntax, it's about the quality of code, what you write, and how do you think logically, and then how do you optimize your code. This is what is majorly important, because you know a brute force approach is majorly written by everyone, but writing an optimized code is what the industry is currently looking for. So I would say data structures and algorithms practice is always going to help you out. And honestly, this is the area that builds your problem solving muscle as well. So especially in fintech or product based companies, they rely highly on your DSA problem efficiently. Uh,
Yeah.
DSA problem solving skills which are efficient enough. So
Oh,
there are multiple platforms like LeetCode, CodeForces, HackerRank, HackerEarth, and but your goal should always be to understand the pattern of what questions are being asked, of what a problem is being solved, not just grind or mug up those random questions. No, you do not do that.
yeah.
And I always say this, that don't just go by what people say is, boring, or it's if don't just go what people are saying. Try it out for yourself first, and then see if machine learning suits you. Go behind learning multiple things around machine learning. If
Okay.
if core Java or if core MERN stack suits you, build such projects that actually that help stand out your resume apart from others. And
Yeah.
we often rely too much on what others say about a particular path to be followed. But it's always important about your opinions. You should be very clear that what is exactly helping you out, or what exactly is interesting you more, rather than listening to others what they are doing or what they are suggesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So as the tech industry is evolving rapidly, like it is evolving at the pace of new inventions every other day. So how do you personally stay updated, and what role does continuous learning play in your professional journey and professional growth?
Okay. So again, that's a very important question, I would say, because honestly, in tech, learning doesn't stop after college or even after getting a job. If anything, it becomes even more important once you're in the industry. You need to be very much tech savvy. You need to be very much updated because it's very important. People will only value you if you are versed enough with what the current industry wants. So personally, I try to follow a few simple but consistent methods, I would say. So I would say in my college days, I used to follow those Udemy, Coursera, and YouTube is what I feel the best is to explore new technologies and revisit or revamp your core concepts. And then these platforms make it really convenient to learn at your own pace because you have no constraints, unlike your college exams or your college as well. So, yes, I would say there are multiple courses out there which are to be followed. And then, if you talk about such booming things like AI and ML, because personally, I've started exploring that, which I did not do in my college days. So, you have multiple courses for that as well around, and that sense of curiosity is really what keeps the learning process exciting. If you just, you need to be very curious about what interests you. You cannot just be lazy, or you have to be very much updated with what the tech industry is going ahead with.
Okay. So you suggest continuous learning and learning something new
Yes.
every day to help grow in the industry, right?
Absolutely. You can find multiple blogs on Medium, on Geeks for Geeks as well. Just pick up any of those blogs and then start reading. Some or the other day, every time you read something, you're going to learn something new as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and then you never know what will interest you so much that it is going to shape your entire career. So, yeah, I would suggest
You know.
reading blogs, going through multiple courses, and then finding what exactly interests.
So Nidhi, in line with the conversation we had right now. So for aspiring software developers, what certifications or courses or like learning platforms would you recommend to polish their skills and learn new concepts that are essential for the tech industry in general?
Okay, so I would say courses I've already mentioned. You have Udemy, you have Coursera, and then
Yeah.
Pluralsight as well. There are multiple platforms out there. In fact, YouTube as well, which is the most uh, feasible one, what I find out. Other than that, if I have to talk about certifications, so uh, there are multiple certifications like AWS, Google certifications. Then you have AWS Cloud certifications. You also have some developer certifications given by AWS only. Then, if you are more interested into data analytics, you also have Google data analytics certifications to be done. Even IBM has those into data science. Oracle has it if you have to go into Java, core Java development. So yeah,
Yeah.
these are a few which I could remember now. But yes, ultimately I would say don't just do those certifications for a badge or just to put it on your resume. Choose the ones which are actually going to help you build your skills, and you are able to once you complete the certification, you are able to build some good projects out of it which actually create some value, and that can actually that you can actually talk about in your technical interviews also. That is equally important. You cannot just have them completed and
Okay.
then just get the certificate. That's not the way how it works. So yeah.
Okay.
And then talking about staying updated with the tech trends, you have, as I said, you have Medium with you, you have Stack Overflow, you have Reddit. Nowadays, Reddit has also a very good content sometimes. You have multiple conference videos which are put up on YouTube from Google, then from multiple good universities as well. Then even GitHub has some good community which actually puts a few repositories which have a good sense of knowledge about things over there as well. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I would say discover all of these things and look out what suits you the best and what actually creates value for you. Don't just go for getting a lot of badges on your profile. No, that doesn't work. You have to be
Okay.
clear. If it's helping, then only go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So, as you are skilled in machine learning and data analytics, so how do you view the technology influencing the future of fintech and digital systems and digital payments in general?
That's a really exciting space to talk about because machine learning and data analytics are already transforming the fintech, I would say, and they are only going to get more powerful going ahead. There's no going back now. Actually, in fintech, data is everything, I would say, from transaction histories, then user behaviors, fraud detection. All of these things are I mean, these are the use cases what come out of fintech, fin data. So, certain use cases which I feel would be trending could be fraud detection. So, ML models can actually detect, unusual patterns of real time transactions which are happening. And this could be way faster actually than what we could actually or what our legacy systems can actually do, right? Or what rule based systems can do. So that is one use case. Then we could have personalized, AI advisors, or these can actually help you to uh, get, to help you utilize your money in a very better manner. That is one use case. Then even credit risk and scoring is what I've seen is coming up. Rather than relying on those traditional CIBIL scores, fintech companies are nowadays using ML to, assess someone's credit worthiness. And based on some alternate data like spending habits, then what mobile data do you use, what are the social signals what you have. So these are certain parameters for that. And then I would say personalized offers and recommendations are already being in place. Just how Netflix recommends shows to you, fintech apps can now actually recommend you investment plans, credit cards, and then saving schemes and all of those things. So yeah, this is all what I think is coming up in the future, and some of these things are already in place. And yeah, so for anyone who's interested into fintech, learning data analytics or ML is a huge value add on, I would say. Even basic knowledge of how models work, how to clean data, how to interpret the data, how to how to maximize the business insight, good business insight, which is actually going to create value out of such big data. And this is this is definitely going to be a value add on if you even know certain basic things and how systems make predictions, and then these all things can set you apart from others, because at the end of the day, fintech isn't just about handling money. It's majorly about understanding people through their data and making smarter decisions. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, with all the excitement around AI in general, so how do you see that the AI replacing jobs thing will affect the future engineers? And what is the industry grade perspective of the same?
Okay, so firstly, I would say, the future of AI is not just about machines replacing humans, but it's about humans evolving around the machines. Because AI will automate a lot of routine or a lot of repetitive work as well. But instead of replacing us, it's more likely to, I mean, to uh, augment our abilities and then open up entirely new kind of jobs for us. So as students, I would suggest we should not fear AI. We should learn to work with AI. You should be AI literate, because that means you should be staying curious, learning the fundamentals of technology, and building strong human skills like, creativity, innovation. Because ultimately, who is going to give the problem statement to AI? It's going to be humans only. I don't think so. AI can, if you just give it the scenario as well, it's going to figure out, oh, this is a problem which you guys are facing. Oh, this is what I can help you out. No, it's going to be humans who have to feed it all to the AI, and then AI can help you out somewhere along. And then you have to manipulate your solution, or you have to manipulate what solution AI has given to you. You will have to be very much very much AI literate, because again, you have to interact again with AI. So I always say this, that AI won't replace you, but someone who knows how to use AI, that person might replace you. So the key is to actually stay adaptable. You should be very much open to any changes which are coming around you. You should not be stagnant that, oh, I have just learned Stack. I should only be getting that project in my internship or in my placement, whatever company I'm going. No, you should be open to all of these. Hence I repeat, your fundamentals are going to help you every time whenever you switch over any tech stack. So keep your fundamentals such strong that in the future, if any tech stack is being thrown around you, you are really comfortable, and then you can pick it up and learn it up, grasp it very quickly, and then move ahead. So,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So there is no need to fear AI, and
No.
there is no need for AI mongering that happens in the student community, right?
Yeah, I would say no. Take it positively.
Okay.
Learn to understand. Learn to understand AI. Be AI literate. The sentence which I would go ahead with, and yeah.
So, Nidhi, teamwork and collaboration are key in large organizations such as MasterCard. So, what soft skills would you recommend to young budding professionals to focus on in addition to the technical skills that they work on?
That's such an important question again, because honestly, in corporate world, technical skills can get you in the door, but soft skills are what help you succeed for a longer run, I would say. And then working at any product companies, not only Mastercard, but where you have to work with multiple cross functional teams. These could be the teams which are not even from your time zones, or they are from some other places as well. So you have to be really collaborative. You have to be really clear about your communication, and you should be very effective in that. Beyond just coding, you are often given ambiguous problems and expected to figure out the best part out of it, right? So that's where your soft skills like logical thinking, then speaking out really clear, asking the right questions, and then even saying, I don't know, but I will definitely look out to it and then revert back to you. So, this is what comes into the play. Even if you're not in a leadership role, or you can show your leadership initiatives like responsibility, being responsible for whatever is given to you, communicating everything with your peers or anyone. And then you don't need to wait for your first job to actually start building this up. College itself gives you plenty of chances if you're just a bit intentional with improving your soft skills, I would say. Start by taking group projects seriously. Practice dividing the tasks, listening to your teammates, as I said earlier as well, and clearly explaining your ideas. Join clubs or college fest to learn how to coordinate, and then work with different kinds of people. Again, mock interviews with your friends are again going to help you to stay calm and confident during actual so, I would say taking initiative, whether it's organizing something or, helping someone out, you don't need to show your leadership skills there. Just treat every small task as a stepping stone to the real world. And over time, you'll grow without even realizing it. Once you start speaking with your peers, once you start speaking with your friends in such a fluent manner, you do not hesitate going forward. So I would say it should come by practice. You will need to inculcate that habit within yourself, whether it be via projects, whether it be via mini projects, whether it be via B project group. There are multiple opportunities in your college, okay? I do not need to list them out there, but then yes, you guys know it much better. uh, if you get a chance for publicizing an event, do that. Just go ahead and do that. Do not hesitate. Do not feel what someone else will think about me. If I just speak something wrong, what the other person is going to think about me. Think like this, that other person is it. I mean, he's sitting there. At least you have come up and then you are speaking out of your comfort zone, right? So that is a big advantage. Consider it positively and just go out of the comfort zone and speak out if you're someone who is an introvert. So, communication is ultimately very important. Listing some soft skills down. So, I would say uh, communicating clearly, then, as I said, helping out others, uh, taking leadership for some things, majority times would be another add on to those soft skills. So, yes.
Okay. So, in line with this, you were also the lead of the PICT IEEE student branch. So, what unique perspective that did that teach you to like gain leadership stuff and collaboration skills? So, how did that enrich your journey?
Okay. Uh, Absolutely. Leading the PICT IEEE student branch was a very pivotal experience for me, both personally and professionally. So when I look back, I genuinely feel that a lot of leadership mindset which I carry today has actually come from my college days. So to begin with, PISB wasn't just a technical club to me. It was something where I had multiple ongoing things and then multiple things to be managed, multiple deadlines, internal team dynamics. So it was almost running like a mini startup within the college. And stepping into the role of chairperson meant that I had to learn I mean, how to not just manage people, but to also guide them, understand what they have to say, and bring together everyone towards a common motto or the common vision of the club. So, one of the biggest lessons I've learned early on was the power of delegation and trust. I mean, initially, I had this urge to be involved in everything, like reviewing everyone's task, what every team is doing, how are they building things. But soon I realized that true leadership is about building a team whom you can actually trust blindly and giving them the space to do their own work, not just, do not just poke your nose every time. That shift in mindset from doing everything myself to enabling others to succeed was a game changer for me. And so, time management was another huge area of learning. We were still full time engineering students and with exams, projects, placement prep, and yet another coordinating. We used to coordinate for national level events as well. So, managing the sponsorship, technical content, and the list goes on, I would say. So, learning to prioritize became really essential. So, I developed this habit of structuring my day, setting up small milestones for the day, and then balancing your academics with the PhD work. So, that habit has still stayed along with me that, prioritize things. You have a lot of things to be done in your college. I can completely understand, but then you have to set a structure for the day that, oh, this is my first priority, this is my second, and this one is my last. So yeah, and then there were also moments that tested us for the last minute speaker cancellations, technical issues during my big events. So, and all of these situations, I've learned something that it's very relevant in corporate life too. Things will go wrong sometimes, and leadership isn't about preventing every issue, but it's always about staying calm and solving it with very much clarity, I would say. So today, even when something unexpected comes up at work, I don't panic. I think, okay, what's the next best step we can take ahead? And that mindset definitely comes from those college days, I would say. So, yeah, uh, I mean, these would be the takeaways what I have carried on. And then everyone should take a note of this. So, in short, my PSB journey wasn't just an extracurricular. It was actually a hands-on training to the real world leadership or the corporate world things what happen around, and it has actually helped me to find myself, to make decisions under pressure, and then most importantly, it showed me how I enjoy working with people and bringing teams together.
Okay.
Yes.
So that was a great answer, Nidhi. And how would you like to end the conversation by giving a key piece of advice to the students for building a balanced profile of technical competence as well as leadership skills that you mentioned?
Okay, so if I had to give one piece of advice to students aiming to build a balanced profile, uh, technically strong but also good with people and leadership, I had say don't hesitate to ask questions. Do not ever. So whether you're learning a new concept in DSA, stuck while working on a project, or unsure of how to lead a team at your college club, asking questions is the first step to, I would say, any growth story. I used to think that asking questions, I mean, people will think that I don't know this part. Oh, it's so basic. But over the time, I realized the people who ask the most questions are often the ones who grow the fastest. So this one habit helped me not only in college but also when I started working in Mastercard. It has helped me gain a lot of clarity, and it really builds your confidence. Someone actually appreciates. Oh, this is what you are thinking. We did not even think about this. So maybe your question could be so much innovative, so much out of the box that it can actually solve another problem, or it can actually
Yeah.
create some another use case which is ultimately going to help your teammates, or even if you're working somewhere, it is ultimately going to help your team as well. So that's
Yeah.
what I had leave with you. So be curious, be confident, be consistent again, and never be afraid to ask questions, never be afraid to speak out your thoughts. That one habit alone can actually transform your entire career path.
That wraps up our conversation with Miss Nidhi Yadav from Mastercard. Her journey, insights, and advice were truly inspiring, and I hope you found as much value in it as I did. From her perspective on innovation in fintech to her encouraging thoughts for students and professionals alike, this episode was a masterclass in career growth and resilience. A big thank you once again to Miss Yadav for joining us and to all of you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to follow the podcast, share it with your friends, and leave a review. Until next time, this is Adish signing off. Keep learning, stay curious, and keep building your journey.